Hello, everybody on the Facebooks. I am super excited today. I hope I put this public. I think I put this public for this Facebook Live. I'm doing a Facebook Live today with somebody who I have admired for a really long time, who's really influenced what I've created and how I've worked in my business. So obviously I'm a little giddy today that I'm going to be having a conversation with him. This man is, I'm checking the time, so I'm gonna invite him here in a minute, is Jonathan Goodman. He has created a huge kind of empire, I would say, for the online trainers, online personal trainers, as well as really helped local personal trainers as well, tenfold. Just the value he's created has been incredible. So that's why I wanted to talk to him today about perseverance and what it really takes to create value in our world, and then also capture some of that value back as well, so we don't get burnt out, like giving, right? So I see John is over here. Let's see if this is going. I think this is actually going to be seamless. Technology. I'm inviting him. I think I approve. Okay, adding, we will see. I tried to do this a different way and it still didn't work. There's like special software you can use. Awesome!
Somehow this works, but you told me to put my phone horizontal and it would only let me do it, oh wait, no, you told me horizontal. Yeah, no, you did the right thing.
Horizontal.
Yeah.
Right?
Like
I
was thinking horizontal means
horizontal?
Yeah. I was thinking that horizontal meant something different.
Oh, yeah, this way. Like you have to put your phone this way.
Yeah.
I tried a different software so it's easier. Like people do Facebook Lives, like your name under it, but I tried it and it was messy and I was like, I don't want to screw this up. So anyway, thank you for being on here.
Yeah, we made it.
So I was kind of hyping you up a little bit because I was saying like how much I've admired what you've been doing and how I think this topic of perseverance is perfect for you because you have like really went to the other side, right? Like I remember reading your book. I think you wrote it in Ignite the Fire or Ignite Your Fire. You wrote about like being at your mom's house or something, like you were burned out doing personal training. Am I right?
Right.
And you were like, screw this.
Basically, I didn't say screw this. I said, is this what my life was going to be like?
Yeah. And then now, like what you've built with this Online Trainers Academy and like you've impacted people all around the world, has just been really incredible. And I've loved like watching you evolve as well. So that's why I want to talk about this topic with you. And my first question for you was to move from like all the way over here to all the way over here, you must have had some sort of maybe driving principles in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did. I mean, it's so funny when these questions are asked, right? Because I did and I didn't. You know, what got me to where I am now is not what's going to get me to the next step. What's going to get me to the next step absolutely has to be principle focused. But what got me to here, if I look back, there were for sure guiding principles. But the truth is, at the time, I was so optimistically ignorant. And I guess maybe that's the guiding principle. But I was so optimistically ignorant. I was so ignorant of why I shouldn't be doing the things that I should be doing, that I was doing, that I didn't even think about it.
Okay.
Like I didn't even think about why it was ridiculous that a 24-year-old should write a book to educate an industry. I just knew so little about what it actually meant to write a book and put out a book that I did it. And I didn't even think about how ridiculous it was that I just cold messaged and cold called like some of the most notable people in the fitness industry. It was like, hey, listen to me, I've got this cool thing. And didn't even think about why I shouldn't be doing those things. And so I think that was, you know, if I were to really go back and be totally honest, that in and of itself probably got me to where I am. And I think the biggest problem these days is we know too much about things, and that's why we don't take action on them. We know too much about why things might not work or how difficult things might be, and as a result, we don't even try. because we keep getting bogged down and thinking that we need to know one more thing or find the best software or get to learn from the best people. And it's like, nah, you don't need any of that. You need to actually try the thing. And when you try the thing, you'll realize pretty quickly whether it makes sense for you or not to continue to try the thing and reinvent and move on. And so my story is really defined by that. Yeah, I absolutely have principles now that guide me and that guide our team, but I don't know how applicable that is to anybody listening. I
Yeah.
mean, some people maybe, but it may or may not be applicable.
No, that makes sense. And I'd say I probably was in the same boat. Like when I wanted to build a fitness business, I remember I was like 18 and my dad was like, how are you going to do that? Right? Like, and everybody was like, how are we going to build an online fitness business? And I didn't really think like, I didn't think about like how much could go wrong or how much I could fail. Right? I was just like, I'm just going to do this thing and it's going to work and I'm going to try these things. I'm going to be okay with the outcome. It's interesting too, like you're saying people get paralyzed a lot, right? From like so much is going on. And I know you talk about this with people in the Facebook group is people trying to grab onto every new software, right? And thinking that it's all about the tools when it's really,
Yeah.
in my mind, what you've done really well is really you've just consistently like shown up and was delivering a lot of value. So I think of that as like a guiding principle too.
Yeah.
Like I think of that for myself. Like, am I delivering value? Like, is this for people's best interest?
Right. I think what you hit on there, Jess. I think what you hit on there is the importance of defining, of trying to figure out what the actual problem is that you want to solve. The idea of I need to find the best software, the idea that I need to learn from the best, or I just need to know this one more thing and then I'll take action. Those are all excuses for procrastination. And what you haven't done is you haven't actually defined the problem. You haven't actually said, okay, what do I need to get out of this business model? Because when you actually know that, when you're like, okay, what do I need? What do I want to accomplish? When you define that, you say, okay, well, I need a software that allows me to do A, B, and C. Cool. Now I'm going to find the first software that I can find that allows me to do A, B, and C. I'm going to choose that. I'm going to use it, and I'm going to never think about it again, because anything else is a distraction. You talked about this whole idea of I'm just going to sort of take action, and like that's cool, but I don't like advice like that. I find that very vague, very superficial, very unhelpful. And I know that I said that in the beginning, and that's why I want to kind of revisit it, because you need to give yourself the opportunity to fail. I think that that's the definition of freedom. And so, yeah, taking action is cool, but here's a couple principles that I now put into place that I think are applicable to anybody is whenever you try to take action, try to maximize potential gain and minimize potential loss, because you will lose. You won't be able to predict what's going to happen in the future. And so if you lose, you need to make sure that you can lose a whole bunch of times, and as long as you win once, it outweighs all of the losses. So that's just a nice kind of thing to keep in the back of your mind. The other thing is, how much money do you need? How much money do you have? Do you have enough money right now? If you do, then what is that gap? How much can you risk? And that's why I say freedom is providing yourself the opportunity to fail. Like where is that gap for you? When you define that, when you define how much money you need to make each month, we call this actually the freedom number, then, so you're looked after, so you're fed, so the people that you love are looked after, debt is paid, that kind of thing. When you define that, you start to get a very clear view of how much you need in order to live. In doing that, now, you say, okay, well, am I making that? Am I not making that? If you're not making that, your only job is to make that doing the highest yield things you can do, which is usually coaching. Ignore the internet marketing stuff for now. Like coach, take on people, get to that point. Once you're at that point, though, well, if you're past that point now, well, then you can start to trim back your schedule. Then you can start to free up a little bit more time with the creative energy, with the willpower that's now freed up by knowing that you can fail. And I think that's the key mindset shift that a lot of people really need to make that they don't by defining just those basic numbers.
John, that's so good. That's so good. And I remember, I think it was like in an email or something, and you had talked about the freedom number, and I'm like neurotic about numbers. So how many times I've done my freedom number over? Like, because you
should
reevaluate. Like, new house, right? Or you want to have
For
more
sure.
fun money. And I've told my clients too, like one of my business coaching clients is watching right now, and I told her about that. And I was like, I was on her over and over again about the financial stuff because that's so important. And then it's not, if it's not defined, like then it's so wide open. I think there's a lot of coaches that think, oh, I need to make 6 figures a year, right? And that goal can
Right.
be so intimidating. Versus like, well, let's just start to where you're not in scarcity, or as my partner says, like not operating from the bottom of Maslow's pyramid,
Sure.
and just like satisfying that, right? And like making sure everybody's fed and like your bills are paid, and then you can go to the next place where you're able to be creative and you're able to,
Yeah.
you know, be a little bit more inspired and go to the next level. But absolutely, I think so many people neglect that. They want to just rush ahead and get everything, when it's like you got to get those basic needs met or it's going to be
Yeah.
really hard.
And when you do that, you know
So
where you can free up time, you know where you can free up
yes.
money, and you can start the process of systematically buying back your time. But that's a process.
Yeah.
That's not just a like, I'm going to hire an assistant and all of my problems are going to be solved. It's a very systematic step-by-step process that it's like a big stone wheel. It takes a lot of work to get it going, but once you do, that thing just starts rolling. And you just start, okay, well, I buy back a bit of my time. Cool. Now I have a bit more free time. Now I have a bit more mental energy. Now I can do more.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm making a little bit more. Now I can buy back a bit more of my time. And that process
Mm-hmm.
compounds upon itself, but it has to get started. And this is how
Yeah,
you get
true.
it started.
I think I was thinking about this too with what you created. People have their eyes set all the way up here and think that they need to have all these steps figured out, but really you just need to go to the next one. Like I was thinking this morning, I was like, you know, I'm pretty sure Jon didn't think about like making the Online Trainers Academy when you first started like deciding to coach other trainers,
Of course.
right? Like it just
Of course.
came with the process.
I mean, it didn't. We had a very quick growing platform of trainers, and I think it's a responsibility of anybody who has a platform and community to identify what the biggest needs are, what the biggest problems are with that community.
Mm-hmm.
So I did hundreds of phone calls with our audience. We gathered hundreds of thousands of data points from surveys and things like that, and we're able to break down the biggest problem that all personal trainers face at some point. Personal trainers, nutrition coaches, which is at some point they all need to make a bit more and a bit less time with a bit better schedule. Same theme, with the problem defined, it was time to find a solution.
Mm-hmm.
And online coaching established itself as the solution. This is why we identified online coaching back in 2012, before it was big. Like my job when I started teaching people how to build an online coaching business was to convince people that you could do online coaching. There was some people doing it for sure. Well, for sure, there were some people who were doing it, but it was so under the radar, it was so under the surface that people hadn't even heard of it, right? Trainers, coaches hadn't even heard of it. It's completely changed now. Now it's at the point where everybody's looking for it because they've realized the kind of market has evolved into a new state of awareness. And that's super cool. And I take a fair amount of credit for that too, of popularizing it and talking about how it can really be that great solution. But that's where it came about. Were all of these surveys and saying, what is the problem here? How can we solve the problem? And I'll be completely honest, I don't think most people who do online coaching are going to be online coaches for the rest of their lives. But it is the best first step away from a sometimes abusive fitness industry to generate a little bit more freedom for yourself, to generate a bit better business, to take care of people a little bit better, a little bit more people, and stay in this industry as a career, which a lot of trainers unfortunately can't do in a gym environment. And so it's that first step to free up space. And most people do it for a number of years, and then with that space freed up, they decide that they want to stay in the fitness industry somewhere else or not. But you'll never figure that out. You'll always be beaten down if you don't take that first step.
Yeah. And I love that you say that it can evolve for all of us. Like I remember sitting down to dinner the other day and I'm like, I wonder if I'm going to be coaching on the internet for the next like 5 years, like you never know, but it's going to evolve. And I think too, people get paralyzed from wondering like, how is this going to look in 10 years? Right. So again, like thinking big picture versus I think
But
Tim Ferriss said only focus on like the next 6 months or something.
I would debate that. I actually haven't read anything by Tim Ferriss. I've listened to his podcast a bunch of times,
Mm-hmm.
but a lot of people are surprised when I say that I've never read a book by Tim Ferriss. So I don't know. I would very much, if he did say that, and I'm sure, a lot of the time when you have quotes like that, like you wonder what the context is.
The context, yeah.
Um, I would vehemently debate that from a business development standpoint. If he did say that, and if he did mean it the way that it sounds, because I think you need to think how this all fits together. Like I
Mm.
don't necessarily. Well, it's actually I know what I'm going to do next year, and I probably know what I'm going to do the year after that, to be honest. But um, the reality of it is, most of my career has been defined by not necessarily knowing what I'm going to produce, but knowing that it all needs to fit together in a very certain way to be able to all support each other. And so
Mm.
if I can get into the nitty gritty of our business, basically we have our core platform, which is the PTDC, which in and of itself
Mm-hmm.
doesn't really make money. But what that does is
Okay.
it gathers a huge amount of people, because it's the biggest blog in the world for trainers. So it gathers a huge
Mm-hmm.
amount of people who find us via Google recommendation, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
filters them to whatever they might be interested in. In addition, though, we have all of these entry points, which are all of my books, which are all of the content upgrades, which are all of our social media
Mm-hmm.
accounts, our groups, any ads that we're running. So if you search anything about how to become a personal trainer, how to become a better personal trainer on like basically any social media network, Google, Amazon, you're going to find us. And so
Mm-hmm.
that all filters in to the website, which grows the
Mm-hmm.
platform, which grows the community. We then have a print newsletter service, which is kind of our middle sort of recurring income. And then we have the ultimate thing that we think that most trainers should eventually do, which is the Online Trainer Academy.
Mm-hmm.
And so all that our job is now is to keep putting more things on the bottom, to keep just almost to deepen that moat around our business, to be able to access people from different places and different countries and different interests and get them all to come in and then say, hey, if you're this type of person, this is for you. If you're that type of person, that's for you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's basically how our business is built. And so everything that we do needs to fit into that system and support it some way and amplify it some way. So I
Yeah.
don't think you need to necessarily know what you are going to build, but I think it's very important to have some sort of a strategy so you're not, and you see this with a lot of online marketers. There's like a product here and then a product there and then a product there, and like they're reinventing themselves every 3 or 4 or 5 months when they need to make a bit more money
Yes.
because there's no thought process behind it. I
Mm-hmm.
think that things need to support each other really well because that's how you grow, right? That's not. I don't really care about spikes and down. I want to do this
Mm-hmm.
for the next 10 years.
Yeah. You hit on something that I wanted to talk about too, is the kind of almost like shiny object syndrome, and people are like, oh, well, that's popular, and I'm going to try that, and I'm going to make a program about this
Sure.
and that. And it just doesn't work that way. And I know for me, I've never really thought about it this way, but I always think about having everything under my umbrella, like of what I value and what my principles are.
Mm.
Um, and then everything kind of falls under that. But yeah, if you're, it's almost in my mind is a form of authenticity, right? And being really authentic in your business and what you're doing. And this is the other question I had for you too. I was thinking about was, especially when you were just starting, like how are you not distracted by shiny objects around you?
I did.
You were.
I
Okay.
tried everything. But keep in mind, when I started, it was what 2009, 2010. Like it was not the same as it is now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So so being distracted by shiny objects was very different than the shiny objects and the distractions that are around now. So
Mm-hmm.
I did everything and I tried everything and I don't necessarily think that that's the worst way to do it when you're starting out. It depends how much space you have. I was a single
Mm-hmm.
guy with no debt, so I
Mm-hmm.
had tons of space. I had tons of time. Where I came from is not possible for people who have families, for people who have debt. Like it's just
Right.
not possible. So it's not really that reasonable, responsible for me to really say all that I did. I do think that it's pretty important, like a foreman on a job site, to acquire the basic transferable skills and to kind of do every job at least a little bit. Like, I definitely taught myself basic HTML. I taught myself basic
Mm-hmm.
Photoshop. I taught myself basic website maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
And all of these things were really important. A, because when you don't have money, you have to trade time. And then as you
Mm-hmm.
start to make a bit more money, then, you can start to buy back some time. So I was doing a lot of the jobs myself. But at the same time, when I started hiring on people, I could much easier assess who was good and who was not good.
True.
Because I knew what the jobs entailed. Like, I had somebody one time who wanted to charge me $1,500 to install a web form on my site. I'm like, that's a 2.5 minute job. But how would you have known that
You
otherwise?
wouldn't have, yeah. You would have been scammed.
So so I fired that guy, and then that's a whole nother story. But I fired that guy, and then he tried to take my website hostage. Um, but that's a whole nother story altogether, which will probably happen, which are fun experiences. And so how do I do it now? I think now, I mean, like you said, whatever term you use, whether it's authenticity, whether it's purpose, doesn't matter what
Yeah.
term you use. I've never been one to use any of those terms, but it's just a matter of, like, what are you good at? What do you love doing? I love to write. I love to publish. I love to put
You're
stuff in
good at
print. I
it.
love to put stuff in people's hands. So my entire business is built around that. I've done a
Yeah.
tremendous amount of personality assessments, which I recommend everybody do. And so all of these personality assessments all say effectively the same thing about me, which is I'm really, really, really unbelievably good at coming up with ideas and diving
Mm-hmm.
deep into a project and knocking it out of the park. And then I am the last person who should manage anything. And so I know this,
It's good
right?
to know.
And so oh, it's very good to know. And so what do? I turned my business into a publishing company. Because what's the one business model where you can dive deep into something, create something, put it out in the world, it works for you, and you never have to think about it again? A book,
Yeah.
publishing. And so you kind of have to build your business model around what it is you think that you do best. And I think that's going to take a lot of introspection. It's this idea of know thyself. It's this idea of having personality assessments done on you and really understanding the results. And actually, it's I think it's valuable to hire somebody to assess the results as well, because when you do that, you can figure out, it's like, okay, well, this is what I should be doing, and this is what I shouldn't be doing. I've become so clear on exactly what I shouldn't be doing, simply
Mm-hmm.
because of all of those assessments. Because I've tried it. I don't do video. I don't do podcasts. I do podcast or like live appearances like this once every 6 months or so, and I'll do 30 or 40 of them. Then I'll never do them again. Go to a YouTube channel, it's a ghost town. I don't really care about Instagram. I mean, we play around with
Yeah.
it. That's about it. It's basically a game for me. Um,
Mm-hmm.
we do books. We do print. We do writing. We do editorial better than anybody on the planet. And we're going to keep doubling down on that and getting better and better and better and better and better and
Mm-hmm.
better at it. And we're going to ignore everything else. Not to say that there isn't opportunity with other stuff. There absolutely is.
Yeah.
But what matters is that you figure out what you do best and you get incredible at it,
Mm-hmm.
because that's the only way where you're really going to stand out. Everything works as long as you don't try to do everything.
That's so true. I think about it like you're really owning what you do. Um, and that
Yeah,
also can be really hard because then you can get distracted again of like, I know for me, I bounce kind of around with what people I serve because I always thought, well, I can do this and I can do that and I can't, right? Like you can create a website for me. You can do podcasts, right? But like,
sure.
is that what you really own? Like, is
Yeah,
that where you feel like you really do your best? And I think
yeah.
yeah, that's tough because
Jess,
then you almost feel like you're shutting it away.
I can tell you off the top of my head right now, 6 people that have built $100,000 plus a year coaching practices, coaching online fitness business, that have built their business primarily off of our group. Like, literally pulled people from groups that I created. I could have owned that entire business, right?
Mm-hmm.
I could have owned them. I could have gotten them to work for me. I got to think that if I were to do any kind of coaching, I'd be able to fill up whatever program I wanted to basically overnight.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not for me, right? And I know that. It's the same thing. Like, yeah, I was in talks to buy an online training software at one point. So what? Why would I want to own a software? That sounds miserable. Like, for me, you know, for some people that's great, but like for me, it's the opposite of what I should be doing.
Right.
And so, you know, I spoke at a mastermind this past weekend just for a friend who was putting it on. He had like 70, 75 people in there. And at dinner, it was interesting chatting with the folks around me. I, we talked because this is all about like make more money, know your numbers, make money, make money, make money. And I was kind of brought in knowing that the pendulum was going to swing super far this way, and I was brought in to swing it the other way. You know, like maybe we should look at people as people and not numbers sometimes.
Yes.
And what was interesting about it was I told the story of a friend, Don Dapani, who's an ex-Hindu monk who now teaches entrepreneurs. He's become a very good friend and a great, you know, guiding light for me and mentor for me. And I asked him one time this question. I said, okay, so I'm doing pretty well. Like, you know, I'm making pretty good money. There's tons of opportunity all around me. Like, how do I know how much is too much?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll never forget his answer. His answer was, there's no money that's too much. There's no amount of things that's too much. He says, you need to you should make as much money as you can possibly make, as long as it doesn't take you away from what energizes you, from what you feel like you should be doing. And the second it takes you away from that, it's too much. And I've taken that to heart. I mean, I could build my business considerably bigger than it is, but you know what? Things are good, and I'm happy, and I'm energized, and I love the work, and I'm having so much fun with it. And what we're creating, like, I'm so proud of what we're creating. And there's no way, shape, or form that it's optimized what I do. But you know what? We're doing pretty good. So,
John, that makes me
to
so
me,
happy.
if I were to get away from that, it's too much. And I think that in this day and age where it's like push, 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 make 6 figures, make 7 figures, do that, do that. It's like, look, I mean, we're making multiple 7 figures, and we're making as much money as we can, but we're not making as much as we could. And that's because we're still having fun. And I think that's a lot of why we're starting to see the business that I have, that our team, the work that our team produces, is kind of starting to separate itself from the pack in a lot of the reputation, because we're doing things for people that other folks aren't, because it just doesn't make sense financially. And that's because I'm enjoying it. Like, I truly am. So I don't remember what your question was.
I don't know, but it makes me so happy, and that's why
But I hope
I've
that
been following
answered
you so
it.
long. That's why I've been following you for so long, because I think of you as like very high integrity versus, oh, there's so much in the coaching industry that's like all about making more money. And it's like, but at the expense of what, right? Like at the expense of like, are you really enjoying your work? Like, are you really helping people to your highest capacity, right? Like, are you just, like, I feel like some coaches, like they scale things so much that they don't always do a good job, or they're just, right, like just numbers. And it
The other
doesn't work
thing
that
is,
way.
they never actually, like, the biggest problem that I have, I'll tell you one of my biggest worries about the audience that we serve, is that there are going to be a lot of people, a lot of fitness pros, a lot of health nutrition professionals, who are going to wake up 5 years from now and realize that they produced absolutely nothing in the last 5 years. They're going to wake up and they're going to be like, all of those pithy social media posts I did, all of those accounts, those social media accounts that I produced, that the algorithm changed and then it squashed over and over again.
Yeah.
All of those algorithms that I tried to game by using the next best thing. You know, I jumped to Snapchat, then I jumped to Periscope, then I jumped to Instagram TV, like, and so on, like ad infinity. And they're just gonna wake up and they're gonna be like, I produce nothing. Like, I did nothing. I never really got that good at what I was doing. I never developed myself the way that I put, like I was pretending like I was working the whole time. And I seriously worry about this, because at the end of the day, all that matters is that you produce work that speaks for you. you develop a reputation that stands for you, and you create real change with real people. Nothing else really matters. And I think our business is a testament to that. Like, we basically ignore social media these days. I mean, we've got Facebook groups, but Facebook and Instagram are so far down the line in priority. Like they basically don't matter to us. And and we're growing. I mean, I can't say that we're going as faster than anybody else. I have no idea. But whenever I tell anybody who's like an expert on numbers and what we're doing and what we're able to sell without any ads, they're just like, how the heck are you doing that? I'm like, because we're doing real things for real people. And we're doing real work and substantial work and creating real impact. And like, that to me is what matters. So I worry that there's going to be a lot of people who wake up and they're going to be like, man, what was I doing? And that's the message that I keep trying to put out. Like get good, work at it, talk to people, like actually talk to people, put real things in real people's hands, and take pride in what you're putting in real people's hands. Like there was somebody at this mastermind who was talking about how, it's easy to do an upsell. You just slap together an ebook in like a day, and you can just like add another 20% in revenue. It's like, really, bro? Like that's what we're doing these days.
Yeah, it is.
What's the end game there? The marginal value of $1 goes down every day. So what's actually worth anything these days? Dollars are certainly worth something, but dollars are only worth something if you know what to do with it, which is basically trade it for more assets and more reputation and more brand. So you're gonna hurt your brand by creating crappy products.
Yeah. Yup. Well, and that's why people get burned from people on the internet. Like, they don't know who they can buy from at this point. I mean, I know I've been personally burned. Like, I spent $1,000 on like a 1-page document that told me how to like post on Facebook, and I was like, what did I just buy, right? Like, because that stuff is out there, and they can feed off the insecurities and the vulnerability of these people that really do want to make an impact too. Yeah.
Do you know how to post on Facebook now?
I do. For $1,000, I learned how to post on Facebook.
Yeah, there you go.
Facebook strategy. Yeah, I was really disappointed. I didn't like tell anybody about it for a while. I was just like so fuming.
Sure.
And I totally get that message of, that would be really painful to like build something for 4 or 5 years, and then you look back and you're like, what did I really create? What's the impact I created? And I just want to say, for me personally, like, sometimes I get kind of wrapped up in like, how many people am I really impacting, right? Like, you think that you need to impact like thousands, millions of people, and you can get stuck in this comparison, versus really understanding like how much are you really impacting the people you do have access to, and just do really well at that as well, right? Focus on your current clients.
This is I guess anytime you listen to anybody on the internet, you need to understand their bias. But what I do is so selfishly for myself, and that's so opposite from any of the advice anybody will give you. Most people will give you. They're like, oh, you need to write for your reader, not for yourself. You need to produce things to serve your audience. It's like, nah, I build stuff for myself. I take so much pleasure personally in what I build in the art of it, and I truly, deeply love it. Like, I love what we produce to the point where I could not care less if anybody buys it, because I just love it. And I love the thing. And so when you have that, it becomes much easier to not get wrapped up in the numbers, to not care at all about the numbers, about, oh, this person's growing their Instagram account much quicker than I am. It's like, who cares? They have nothing. They're not selling anything. They've got an inner circle membership that people are signing up for, and then realizing that there's basically nothing there. It's like this person who sold me this $1,000 Facebook document, which I'm sure they said came with some coaching or something. Like you have a bad taste in your mouth towards everything that person does for the rest of that person's life. And
100%.
you're somebody who is very much growing and gaining influence to a lot of people who might potentially be customers for that person. What does that do for that person long term? And that, I mean, there's no way that you can build a business with that. So like, what are you doing? You're trying to make a couple $100,000 now and then reinvent yourself, and that's why you see all of these coaches. If we're talking about the coaches, that's why you see all of these coaches basically come and go.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, if you do that and you're good enough at convincing people to buy from you, well, you might make a go of it for a short period of time, and you might make some money. Because the reality of it is, in today's day and age, this may not last for that much longer, but because ads are just getting much more expensive. But in today's day and age, you could make six figures as a business coach reasonably easily, without really delivering any kind of a service. Like you could basically take a course on Coursera, call yourself a social media expert, fire ads to people, and if you're halfway decent at selling over the phone, you could probably make six figures.
Yep, it's bad.
But that's just a matter of an evolution of the marketplace. We're in this cowboy era, and it's ending. Because there have been enough people who have burned. There are enough watchdog type groups and stuff like that exist now. That anybody who's kind of more serious will be like, hey, what do you think about this? And like 10 people go in, they're like, nah, I got burned by that person. Like, yeah.
Right.
You're never gonna sign up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like I said, it's the things. I think the easiest way to go about that is to take immense pride in what you produce, and when you do that, it becomes much easier to ignore what other people profess to have.
Yeah.
And I say
Well, it gives
profess
you an
because
inner
you have no idea what they
confidence.
actually have.
That is true too. Everything's a lot of smoke and mirrors online. And it gives you more of the inner confidence when you know you're really producing value and you're impacting people. I know my clients, when they, give me testimonials or whatever, like, I just feel so good inside, right? You're like, oh, like I really made that impact. And yeah, like creating everything feels really good too. So I understand what you mean by like being selfish in what you create. It's like a lot of the time I'm writing for myself, right? It's like,
completely.
Therapeutic in a way,
Completely.
and you do great in I actually read most of your emails, right? Like so many people don't read their emails. Like, oh, it's Jon Goodman's email. Because you write so well, like you really perfected that craft. So
well,
yeah,
I certainly haven't
I
perfected
totally agree with that.
Anybody who writes a lot will tell you that every time that they write, they feel like they've gotten worse. It's a very
Really?
self-deprecating venture. The better I get at writing, the worse I think that I am. And I think that will
Really?
happen until the day I die, until I end up in a basement with a bottle of bourbon, hating myself and everybody. Because writing is so, especially if you're writing about things that you're kind of discovering. Like I write to learn.
Oh yeah.
The best way to learn is to teach. And so most of the time when I write stuff, especially on the onlinetrainer.com website, which is like just my personal blog, my personal thoughts, most of the things that I write about there, I'm doing because I'm trying to understand the concept myself.
Right.
And so that much, I mean, it's a very introverted venture, but at the same time, thinking about what you're thinking too much can lead to a few extra drinks over time. And I need to be pretty careful of that with my wife and family. I mean, I kind of joked before we got married. I was like, yeah, no, my goal in life is to be a disgruntled writer in a basement somewhere. She's like, oh, great, this is going to be fun. And hopefully that doesn't happen, but time will tell.
That's funny you say that, because I wouldn't think that about you with the writing, because I don't know, because you're good at it, and
It's
I think
hard. Writing's hard. Anytime you produce anything creative is hard.
It is, and I think more people need to recognize that. I'm watching the time, by the way, because we were gonna do like 30 minutes. It's like 10:41.
Okay, let's wrap it up then, because I got into work an hour late because my baby was not being particularly good.
He's being a baby. He's being a babe, right?
No, you know what it is.
He's doing baby things.
The two of them, my beautiful wife and Calvin, our son, who's 15 months, are they're going away actually for the week. They're going to be at a cottage for a week because we've got to launch stuff, and it just worked out that way. Normally I'd go with them. Like 2 weeks ago I went with them, but this week I need to be here. So it was like getting everything packed up and stuff like that for them too. And it seems like he's teething again. You know, he's got his molars in, but he needs a couple still. So it seems like he's teething again. So he just wants to be like held by mom all the time. So, but no, we had some good cuddles this morning. I'm gonna miss him.
I love your pictures of him. It's just like so cute.
He's so much fun. We went to Medieval Times yesterday. We went to Medieval Times for the first time with him yesterday. Medieval Times is like, it's this awesome. I mean, we have it here. I know it's in some other places across the states too, but it's basically like this play that you're immersed into, and you're on the team of one of the knights, and they fight, like they joust, they sword fight, and all this stuff, and they're fighting like the whole theme of this one yesterday was the queen, and the queen's like chancellor basically says, "Oh, you should marry whoever wins," and she's like, "I will choose who I marry," and then some guy like you know, the bad knight on the other side was talking about how a woman shouldn't decide, and then, you know, she was like a powerful woman who was like deciding. So that was cool. That was fun. Anyway, our knight won, so that was a big deal.
So wait, did you participate?
No. You're in the stands, and you're like.
Okay, so you're the observer.
They give you like a leg of chicken and like a potato. Okay. And you eat it with your hands, and you're like sitting there like watching it, and you're cheering on your knight and stuff.
This is in Canada.
It's a surprising amount of fun. They have it across the states too.
Is this in Canada? You're in Canada now.
I'm in Canada. I'm in Toronto. But they do have it across the states as well. It's pretty fun.
Yeah? So you're recommending it?
Surprisingly, it's a surprising amount of fun.
See, and I know you get that with kids, like, because then you do these things you would normally do. You're like, we'll go to this thing, but then like the parents always enjoy it, like sometimes even more than the child.
Oh, this wasn't for a kid. This was for my wife's brother, his 38th birthday, and all of his friends. And we came. We were the only baby. Like this was like 17 35-year-olds.
Yeah. Okay. So I was thinking like maybe it's like a kid thing. Okay, so it's like a both thing. It's like kids and adults.
It's like an adult thing because the adults can drink beer, and then it's
and eat chicken legs
because it's fun, and eat chicken legs with their hands. Yeah.
I can get behind that. That's actually what I did for breakfast before our call. Is literally like eating chicken legs. So
eat a chicken leg. Yeah. Okay.
Cool. Well, thank you, Jon. I don't know if there's any other comments that people want to say. I'll respond to some of these after. But I really appreciate you coming on and having this discussion. And thank you. I just want to thank you too for like creating so much value in the industry. It's awesome. You should be proud of yourself.
It's been fun. It's been fun watching your growth as well, Jess.
Oh my God,
I've grown what you do in the next few years. Yeah.
Who knows?
Well, Who knows? I don't even remember the first time that we interacted. We should go back and try to find that out. But had to be. I mean, years ago. So it's cool. It's cool to see where you're going.
Yeah. I keep going up, and so do you. And it's like who knows where we'll be in 3 to 5 years. Still creating value.
We're drinking bourbon. There you go.
All right, Jon. It was good talking to you. I'll talk to you later.
Thank you to everybody who was watching. Appreciate it.
Bye, guys.